Joining us now, Congressman Marlin Stutzman, to talk more about Republicans getting Trump's agenda through Congress. Sir, thank you so much for your time. You were first elected to Congress in 2010, and as I understand it, you took an 8-year break, and now you're back in Washington. How does that feel?
Yeah, the break is re-energizing. So I highly recommend it to other members of Congress as well, because there's always a lot of frustration. But take some time off and you might come back with a different perspective.
Yeah, a little sabbatical. So what is your perspective now at the start of a second Trump administration?
Excitement and optimism. I had the opportunity, like you said, to serve in Congress during the Obama administration. And, there was a lot of frustration with where Obama took the country. And I think we're seeing some of the consequences of that today with our health care costs. But I ran for the Senate in 2017. I lost, but had the opportunity to go back home to Indiana and to work on building our family businesses and just to be re-engaged in my community. And I had the opportunity to work under the Trump administration for 4 years, which was a very different experience than what the previous 4 years have been under the Biden administration. And so I can tell you there's a big difference. And so I always knew that I wanted to serve again, but when President Trump announced that he was going to run for president again, I felt like this was an opportunity to serve, and very excited to be here because there's a lot of work to do, and Trump's message and his agenda is what America needs now more than ever.
Yeah, but you all have your work cut out for you, always in Washington, and a busy start, as I mentioned a moment ago, a flurry of activity with these executive orders. Your thoughts on them? Any surprises? 200 or so that he has already signed.
I think the only surprise is that he came out strong. Well, I shouldn't say that's a surprise because that's what we should, expect from President Trump. He sees the problems. He's heard from the American people, and he's such a great leader and is ahead of the curve and talks about issues that others aren't always talking about. He talked about China. China's been eating our lunch as a country for the last several decades, whether it's energy independence. He knows the importance of energy and what kind of power it gives to our country economically, but also from a national security front. But he also understands too that government slows down business. As a business owner and as a small businessman for the last 8 years, and prior to that as well, that's been my career. I've seen how government, it's not always the regulation that may be the issue. It's the fact that you can't get an answer from a government official. That slows down business. And so Trump he understands the issues that are going to make America a great country again. And he's leading on those promises. And I'm excited to be here to help him do that.
We hear words like optimism and unity, certainly at the prayer service this morning in Washington, D.C. But when it comes to big issues like you talk about, Congressman, the border, national security, the economy, energy, and so on and so forth, we see both parties then dig their heels in. How might that change in the next few months when it comes to some of the topics that are most important to Americans? And how do you see your personal role in doing so?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say that the American people are breathing a collective sigh of relief. That insanity is out and that common sense is in. And it was so, wonderful to sit there in the rotunda yesterday and to hear President Trump's speech talking about it. I felt like the speech wasn't just directed at the good people of America. It was directed at the bad actors that have been taking advantage of America as well. And so I think we can all find optimism in that, and that we can find hope in that. And we also know that President Trump he delivers on his promises. You look at the administration that he led over 4 years ago now, and the promises that he kept during that period of time is why we're still able to benefit, whether it's the tax cuts. I think that's one of the top priorities that we need to address, is to make his tax cuts permanent. There should be no reason that the federal government takes more money out of the pockets of the American worker or the American small business owner, making sure that this economy gets back on track and that we can all feel like we can work again without the government standing in our way.
And before Republicans and Democrats work together, before I let you go, the work that has to be done within your own party, certainly in the House, we've seen struggles as small factions have stood up, and we've seen changes in leadership. What do you anticipate within your own party, and what is the status going into this next Congress?
Well, oftentimes when you're in the minority and you're, having to deal with President Biden or President Obama as a Republican, you can only do so much. But now that President Trump is in office, we can unify behind him. Yes, there's always going to be different groups within a caucus or a conference of 220 people, but I don't sense that is even as much of an issue. We've unified behind Speaker Mike Johnson. We understand that President Trump is the leader. The Senate is obviously a partner in all of this as well. I've seen our leadership, Mike Johnson and John Thune, working together like we didn't see that back in 2017. So I think that everybody realizes that we have 100 days, 2 years to get a lot of work done. And that's why this reconciliation package that Chairman Arrington out of the Budget Committee is such a critical piece to this, to get the package put together, address all of those very important topics that Trump has been talking about. And he's going to go out and he's going to lead, and we can be there to support him and get the bill passed so that way things can start to be better again for the American people.
Well, we'll be following that work very closely. Congressman Marlin Stutzman, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.